my favorite details to add to most any project I can, when I can, is piping. And I love doing that on the Baby Lockjoy. There's a few little steps that we need to take, and the first one is to make sure that we have our stitch selector on that A setting. We want to adjust our stitch length to about a 2.5. And my final step, or the thing that I love the most, is a zipper foot. And the reason that I like the zipper foot, on the back side of it, this is our standard zipper foot, and on the back side of it there's a groove. And why this groove is ideal is I use 1/8 inch cording or cable cording, and you can see how easily that fits underneath that groove. Now we're going to place the presser foot on the machine using the left hand side of the foot. There's two sides to the foot. There's the left hand side and the right hand side, but we want to use the left hand side. Now I've cut my strip about 1.5 inches, and you can use straight of a grain or you can use bias. I typically prefer bias because I find that I get better looking piping. The fabric tends to wrap around that piping or the cable cording a little easier. So I've encased my cording to start with inside of the fabric. So I'm looking at the right side of my fabric when I place it underneath the presser foot. And you can see by lowering that presser foot how that cable cording just rides right underneath that groove. Now the next thing that I want to do is I need to try to bump that needle just a little bit closer towards that cording. So I'm just going to see if I can move it just a click over, and there I've got it right there. And to do that, what I did was I actually used that with control, and that slid that needle a little bit to the left. So in a sense, it's now a little off center. And then I'm just going to go ahead and stitch. And you can see as I'm stitching, what that foot does is it helps define that edge on the cording. And then I'm continually wrapping my cording as I'm stitching. I'm always watching out here on my cording to make sure that I can see the cording rather than watching where that needle's hitting. That needle's always going to hit where that needle's going to hit. What I do when I'm sewing, whether it's creating piping or any other type of technique, is I'm always watching everything before it gets to the needle so that I can make any changes or prevent something from possibly happening. Again, I'm always wrapping this fabric around that cording, and I kind of just kind of like push it in there or push it in there, or kind of seat it in there is the word I guess I'm looking for, to make sure that it is right along that fold, because that will help with the definition. And if you'll notice, I always try to make sure that my piping is a little bit longer than my fabric. So in case for some reason my fabric tended to gather while I was creating the piping, I can pull that fabric along the cording. And I do the same thing when I start. I always have a little extra cording at the beginning so I can hang on to that. Now we're done, and we can take a look at that cording. That is just stunning. On the back side it's flat, and on the front side you can see that beautiful ridge, and that's what I want. I want that needle thread really tight up against that cording to really create that definition of that edge. So you can see how easy it is to create stunning piping using the Baby Lockjoy and the zipper foot.